We're excited to have him in Kansas. And do we have anybody on WebEx? I better ask that first. We do not, okay. Is she there now? Okay. Senator Holscher's on? Okay. So we got Senator Holscher is on WebEx. So then without any further ado, we'll have Andrew Richards, Vice President of Government Affairs with TerraPower, if he would come forward, and we're excited to hear your presentation, Andrew. Be sure and push the button underneath the microphone there. Thank you.
Does that work? Like that? Yeah. Perfect. Great. I have slides. There we go. Perfect. Great. Thank you again. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Andrew Richards. I am Vice President of Government Affairs for TerraPower. I'm here today to talk about our work, our advanced reactor, which we call Natrium, our work building that reactor in Wyoming, and our efforts here in Kansas. TerraPower is an advanced nuclear development company that was founded about 20 years ago by Bill Gates and a group of like-minded visionaries who wanted to solve the question of how do you take on energy poverty around the world. They came up with the solution of tackling advanced nuclear development and pushing innovation in that area. Our headquarters is based in Bellevue, Washington, which is across the river from Seattle. We have over 800 employees, mostly based in Bellevue, working on the reactor itself. We have, in addition to our headquarters in Bellevue, we have a research and development laboratory based up north in Everett, Washington. We are currently constructing our first reactor right now in Kemmer, Wyoming, and we are also exploring projects here in Kansas, Utah, and the United Kingdom. Our company was founded and is led by Bill Gates, and our president and CEO is Chris Levesque, who has decades of experience in the nuclear sector. We also have substantial investment from leading technology and energy companies, including SK, HD Hyundai, Korean Hydronuclear Power, ArcelorMittal, and most recently, NVIDIA has joined us as an investor. TerraPower is developing our advanced reactor, which we call Natrium. Natrium in Latin means sodium. The Natrium reactor is a 345 megawatt electric sodium-cooled fast reactor coupled with a molten salt energy storage system that can ramp up to 500 megawatts for 5.5 hours. So what does that mean? That means we have an advanced reactor that's cooled with liquid sodium that has a standard base output of 345 megawatts. And then next to it, we put a large molten salt energy storage battery, or 2 large tanks, that can store the heat for a certain amount of time and then output additional electricity to ramp up to 500 megawatts for 5.5 hours. This technology is very different than the current operating reactors today. There are 94 light water reactors, including Wolf Creek here in Kansas. But there are some key benefits over existing reactor technology like Wolf Creek. The first key benefit is our reactor is cooled with liquid sodium instead of water. Water has a boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius. Liquid sodium has a boiling point of 800 degrees Celsius. So it is just not physically possible for the coolant to boil off in case of an incident. The second benefit is our reactor operates at near atmospheric pressure, which enhances safety and reduces component complexity, meaning current reactors operate under like a pressurized environment, which requires lots of piping and welding and a massive amount of shielding. Our reactor does not require that. It's much more simple, much less complex, much less piping and much less room for issues in the reactor vessel itself. Another big key benefit of the reactor, if you look over in the top left, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but we decouple the reactor itself. So we separate out the nuclear island, where the reactor actually sits, versus the energy island where the generation of electricity actually occurs. This allows us to reduce costs and shortens the construction schedule for the reactor itself. And then lastly, the reactor is paired with a molten salt energy storage system, which allows us to store additional electricity and increase the output of the reactor, which allows for grid flexibility, works well with grids with a lot of renewables, like Kansas has lots of wind, and solar. So it's basically a giant battery that we attach to the reactor. So if you look at the bottom up there, you can kind of see a diagram of how the reactor works. On the far left, we have the reactor itself with the fuel sitting in a pool of liquid sodium. That heats up, and that heat is then transferred over to the molten salt system. It's carried over on the green, and then the green is then transformed, take that heat, and that heat is moved over to the steam generator. Then it goes over to the turbine and it goes out to the generator to create electricity. So essentially, the reactor is charging a giant battery, and the battery discharges the heat over to become electricity, and it goes up and down all day. Taking a step back, this is what our plant in Wyoming will look like once it's completely constructed. This is a single unit of what Natrium will be. You can clearly see the separation of the nuclear island and the energy island that I was talking about before. The nuclear island is in the orange square there, and then the energy island is in the blue square around there. Right in the middle of the nuclear island sits the reactor. It's much, much smaller than the current reactors. And then from that, we generate heat. That heat is transferred off the nuclear island through the piping over to the energy island where they store it in energy tanks. And then through those energy tanks, the steam is created, spins the turbine, creates electricity. The benefits here is we've worked closely with the state of Wyoming as well as the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission on the permitting and licensing of both of these islands. A determination was made by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission that they only have the responsibility over the radioactive side parts of the reactor, which is the nuclear island itself, and the state of Wyoming manages the energy island, which is all non-nuclear components. So that allows us to begin construction on the energy island first, but before achieving the license on the nuclear island, which allows us to speed up construction. Lastly, the size of the facility is about 44 acres. It's much smaller than the current plant, and the size of the nuclear island itself is about 16 acres. The reactor in Wyoming is a single unit reactor. It is likely the only time we will build a single unit reactor. Moving forward, especially in Kansas, we would build either a dual or quad configuration. This is what that would look like. Very similar, we have the nuclear island on the right, the energy island on the left. 2 reactors this time, transfers over the heat over to the energy storage tanks, steam's created, turbine is spun, electricity is created. The advantage here is that this dual Natrium reactor creates 690 megawatts of firm baseload power, but paired with the molten salt tanks, it creates up to 1 gigawatt of dispatchable electricity. We have been working very, very hard on the federal licensing process for our reactor in Wyoming. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission is the federal agency that oversees all licensing of civilian nuclear reactors in the United States. We are pursuing a license with the NRC under the Part 50 licensing pathway, which is the traditional 2-step process. Under this pathway, we first apply for a construction permit. Once we obtain that permit, it gives us the ability to start construction on the reactor. Once the reactor is complete, we then apply for an operating license, which allows us then to begin to operate the reactor and connect it to a commercial grid. We've started the licensing process back in 2021 with a team of 36 people who spent over 1 million staff hours drafting up a 2,500-page application on the construction permit. We submitted that application to the NRC in 2024, and they've spent over 2 years working with us very vigorously to ensure the safety of the reactor itself. I'm very pleased to say, and what the chairman was alluding to earlier, is that yesterday the NRC voted 5-0 to approve the construction permit application for our reactor. We are the first advanced reactor to achieve this in many, many years, and we are currently the only advanced reactor developer who now has this construction permit application for commercial operations. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have a great relationship with the NRC. It's spent years working with the regulator, and we will continue to do that as we move towards the operating license. The next steps for us is now that we have the ability we have the construction permit, we will begin construction on the nuclear part of the reactor in Wyoming later this year. All of this couldn't be done without our groundbreaking public-private partnership with the federal government and Congress. In 2020, the Trump administration created the Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program. This is a cost-shared program to license, construct, demonstrate, and deploy an advanced reactor by the end of this decade. Our reactor was selected as an awardee by the Trump administration in 2020, and we have been working expeditiously with the Department of Energy to deploy our reactor in Kemmerer, Wyoming. It is a 50-50 cost share program, so for every dollar the federal government puts in, TerraPower and our investors match it dollar for dollar. So far, $2 billion has been provided by the federal government for the program itself. Not only is the program focused on building a reactor in Kemmerer, but it's also focused on building the supply chain for sodium fast reactors around the United States. This isn't new technology. In the 60s and 70s, we have built sodium fast reactors. We've just lost the ability to do so over the last several decades. So we're working to restart the supply chain, the fuel, the workforce, the components. All of these things are part of the program to start up and put everything so it's accessible in the United States. Lastly, the program itself maintains strong bipartisan support in Congress. We've achieved very healthy appropriations over the last 5 years. There's a strong agreement that the United States should be leading this technology versus Russia and China, who are actively building this similar technology in their countries. Nuclear is a geopolitical tool. It's a 100-year relationship between two countries, and we want to be able to sell American products to our allies around the world. As I mentioned, we have chosen Kemmerer, Wyoming as the site of our first reactor. Wyoming was chosen due to strong community support. The location near a coal facility that's currently transitioning to a natural gas facility, but will eventually retire, and a strong, skilled energy workforce. We are partnering with the utility Pacific Corp, who we signed a power purchase agreement with, who will purchase the power from us, but we will be the owner and operator of the plant in Wyoming. Currently, the facility is under construction. We have about 75 construction workers at the site right now. Those pictures were taken a few weeks ago. But at peak, we expect 1,600 construction workers, and then when the plant is fully operational, we expect 200 to 250 full-time jobs. One thing that we're very proud of is that we've offered a job to anybody at the coal facility. You do not need to be a nuclear engineer to work at a nuclear power plant. Non-nuclear construction began in 2024, and it will continue as fast as possible in the next several years. And we expect it to be complete by 2030. Fuel will be loaded in December of 2030, and commercial operations are expected to begin in 2031. Our reactor will produce spent fuel, like the 94 other operating reactors around the United States. It will just produce significantly less amounts of spent fuel. That spent fuel will be treated no differently than it is in the 94 other reactors around the United States. It will be taken out of the pool and then moved into dry cask storage, where it will remain until the federal government finalizes a federal deep geological repository. But until that time, the spent fuel will remain on site, safe, silently sitting there. Lastly, I can't talk about our work in Wyoming without discussing the community trust that we've built. Siting a nuclear reactor is very difficult, and we've spent 5 years working and building community trust with the citizens of Kemmerer and the state of Wyoming. We've worked very closely with the local elected officials as well as the state to ensure that we have maximum transparency on everything we're doing. We host a town hall out in Kemmerer every several months where our CEO and our engineers go and provide a presentation, and we open up to anybody who wants to come in and take questions and ask what's going on at the reactor and ask questions. And we sit there and we listen and we answer every question until there's no one left. So we really do enjoy that. It's a foundation to how our company operates, and that's something we would like to bring to Kansas as well. Moving beyond Wyoming, we've started to look elsewhere in the United States about where we could deploy a Natrium reactor. We've looked at Utah, we're looking also at the United Kingdom, but Kansas is a very attractive state for us. We began discussions with Evergy almost a year ago, and then in 2025, we announced an MOU between TerraPower, Evergy, and the Kansas Department of Commerce. This MOU enables us to begin a technical exchange between Evergy and TerraPower. We brought our experts out and hosted them, and they started talking about how our Natrium reactor could fit in Evergy's service territory in Kansas. There are no sites yet chosen in Kansas. Site selection will be based on a series of criteria, including community support, the physical characteristics of the site, the ability of the site to obtain a license from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and access to existing infrastructure like transmission. That's also very crucial. We've started to engage with Kansas leaders. We hosted the Lieutenant Governor last year. We've met a lot with Evergy, and then we've also hosted Kansas State University representatives last November. We saw that they've turned on their nuclear engineering program, which we're very, very excited to see. We're thrilled to see that. Workforce is a major concern for us, so reestablishing that educational series for students is very, very crucial for us. For the next steps in Kansas, I would say we're doing a deliberate and strategic community regulatory engagement for the rest of the year. That means on the community side, we would like to host a series of town halls in the next several months around the state where our engineers and our company will come and provide a technical presentation to anybody that's interested, and we will sit and listen and take questions from anybody who has questions. On the regulatory side, we will start to look at some sites around the state, like look at Wolf Creek. Could we put the reactor next to an existing reactor? That would make sense. And other communities as well, and look at the characteristics of the land, the seismic issues, drilling boreholes in to understand the specific geology about how could we license a reactor there. But I just want to say it's been a very warm and welcoming reception in Kansas since we announced in September. Everyone has been truly fantastic. I've been working with Federico Durst Consulting, who's been helping me, and I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm available at any time. So I appreciate the opportunity to present before you today and talk about TerraPower. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew, if you wouldn't mind, you just stand there, and I'll bet there'll be a few questions from look at that, all the hands went up at once. Senator Thompson, we'll start the end here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for being late. It's been kind of an insane day.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for the presentation. I was just trying to catch up, looking at the process. So your uranium, I guess you use uranium to heat the salt and melt the salt. Does the salt then, you said it transfers to the steam generator, or transfers or heats the water, and then that goes over to the steam generator. Does the salt hold on to heat, I'm assuming, much, much better than water?
So a few differences. So our reactor, it sits in liquid. There's no water involved.
Okay.
It sits in liquid sodium.
Yep.
And then that liquid sodium heats up, and we transfer that heat over to the molten salt. And that molten salt carries the heat over to the generator.
Okay. And so you use no water for the steam?
We use water for the steam, but that's completely separate on the energy.
Okay.
Yes.
So does that use less water because it's not water
Yes,
cooled?
we do use less water. I don't have a specific number, but it's substantially less than a traditional light water reactor that's currently being used. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So a facility like a Wolf Creek where they already have a lake,
Yes.
you would have it would probably have very little impact, I'm guessing, on the existing reactors.
Correct. We do need a small access to water for the turbine, but it's nothing like a massive type of gigawatt-sized reactor like Wolf Creek.
Okay.
And to your earlier question, yes, we do use uranium. It's the same type of uranium found in traditional reactors, but it is a little bit different. We use what's called high-assay, low-enriched uranium. Current reactors use a uranium that's enriched up to 5%. We use a uranium that's enriched up to 19.5%. This allows more efficiency in the fuel itself, but fuel is one of the biggest challenges with advanced reactors today because we don't have the ability to produce it in the United States right now. We're working closely with Congress and the Trump administration. Congress has appropriated $3 billion to the U.S. Department of Energy to reestablish a supply chain for this type of fuel in the United States. It's coming. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So we've actually partnered with an American company with operations based in South Africa called ASP Isotopes, who will produce our first core. Once the capability in the United States comes online to produce this type of fuel, we will buy it as much as they can produce.
Okay.
So
right now, it's South Africa.
South Africa for us. Okay. There's a few American companies who can produce small quantities in Ohio and New Mexico, Kentucky and Tennessee. They're just not there yet for where we need them on our timeline for deployment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Bowser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very, very exciting. And again, welcome to Kansas. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
A couple of questions, if you will.
Yes, sir.
What is unique about Natarium's reactor, is it the sodium cooling that makes it unique?
I would say it's both the liquid sodium, that is the coolant, and then the separation of the energy island and the nuclear island. No other developer that I'm aware of has this capability to do this. And then lastly, we attach the giant battery to it, which makes it unique. So those three characteristics, I would say, is fairly unique.
And would this be considered a small modular reactor?
Yes-ish. It depends on the definition. Small modular reactor in the industry, it's usually around the output of the reactor. So from 100 to 400 to 500, yes, we would call ourselves a small modular reactor. But I don't want to give you the impression that this will be built in a factory and trucked on site. It's a mid-sized type reactor. Yeah, so it's not, some other companies are offering factory-made reactors. That's not what we're offering.
So my final question, my understanding is the United States has been looking for a new sort of nuclear design that we can, kind of a cookie cutter, if you will, that we can copy and paste and roll out this new design across the country. Does this fit the bill for that?
I would argue it does. There's intense competition right now to be the winner of that decision. But I would say the Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program in 2020 selected 2 companies. We're one of them with Wyoming. Another company is deploying in Texas. Those 2 companies in the advanced reactor space are the furthest along. Thank you.
Committee, Senator Peterson.
What's the approximate size and footprint on a dual reactor, and does it include the switchyard?
Let me get back to you with that answer. I don't have the specifics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're ready for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may come as a surprise to a lot of people, but I'm an enthusiastic supporter of nuclear. In fact, you had me at just saying nuclear. My concern isn't your company or the good hands that you're in with your consulting firm or even Evergy. It's actually us on this side, and whether or not we are prepared to assist you in this in the best way we can. I did a little light research on this. It appears that KSA 79230, which would be quite a while ago, provides a 10-year property tax exemption. It was designed for Wolf Creek, though, so it's only within 3 miles of Wolf Creek. So any of these other sites that you have would not have that exemption necessarily. Is that something that you think that we should explore, or is that something that is a part of your site selection criteria? Can you give us any insight into that?
I would say yes, that property tax is deeply important to where we would cite it. So if there were an ability for an exemption, we would strongly encourage that to be explored. So yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Sort of 2 questions about the site itself. You talked about storage. We've been on visits, many of us, to Wolf Creek, and we know they store it in water. Would you do that same thing?
Yes. So that we would lift the spent fuel out of the reactor itself. We'd clean it with a specific nitrate solution to remove all sodium on the fuel rod itself, and then it will sit in a spent fuel pool, I think for about 5 years while it cools down to an appropriate temperature, and then it is permanently moved into a cement cask. And then it will sit on that cask until a final resting place is determined.
And a second question, also, those of us who visited Wolf Creek know that there's a great deal of security.
Yes.
Along with the production of power. Are there those same considerations for this site?
Yes, yes. We have an entire regulatory team focused on building our safety and security. I'm going to say this wrong. The guns, guards, and gates that's required for a nuclear reactor. In Kemmer, Wyoming, they have a very small police force, but our reactor will have 50 armed guards who will be there around the clock protecting the reactor. So we take that incredibly seriously, and we have a lot of experts from existing reactors around the United States who we've hired into our company who are helping us create the security program.
I appreciate that the site will be secure. I'm sorry that so much of the energy and attention is spent on the guns and gates.
It's important.
Thank you.
Committee, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple other questions came to mind. Do you have to replace that sodium very often?
No, we will not have to
Okay,
replace
so it's, once it's there, and it
yes.
just recycles
Yes,
throughout the deal. And also, I'm assuming it operates much like another facility, is that you ramp it up and it just kind of runs. So it's not meant to be wheeling power. I saw you could ramp up to 500 megawatts. I guess you could provide some day ahead extra energy in case there was heat or cold.
Yes.
But generally, you would expect it to run at a pretty steady pace, I'm guessing.
But it is designed based on the needs of the grid. So, at night, if there's a need, when the wind goes down, we can ramp up the reactor and we can be able to prepare to do that. I think we can ramp it up twice a day, has the ability to do so in the current design. So yes, it can ramp up and ramp down.
We would hope that it eventually replace the wind and any solar.
Understood.
That's my thought. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Clays.
Yeah, I just didn't want to monopolize all the time, but I do have concerns about, again, going back to us on our side, the regulations. All of our regulations were built around Wolf Creek, which is 50 years old, and there's actually a real question as to whether KCC, because of the way that it's written for a light water reactor, even applies, and how to navigate that best. I'd rather not to be a speed bump for you. If we can get ahead of that and just fix it up front. That would be, something I think that you might appreciate. If you can help us out with what you're looking at, or if you have model legislation, by all means, give it to us and we'll take a look at it.
Absolutely. We've done an initial search to understand if there's anything stopping our reactor from being deployed. As of right now, no, but yes, from the business case to work with the KCC, we'd love to work together. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Couple that I would ask on the energy storage tanks.
Yes.
That's your batteries, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You look at those pictures and they look a little different. I don't know. Around here, they look like an oil tank.
Yeah.
So
We took
is there something, kind of explain how that battery fits into this picture is what I would be asking. How long does it hold a charge to it? Exactly how you envision that working for you there.
So the tanks we actually took from the solar industry because they already use a version of this
Right.
as well. So all of the heat does pass through the energy storage tanks, and they can ramp up for about 5.5 hours to ability to hold that amount of power. And so based off the needs of the grid, we have one that's a hot tank and then one that's a cold tank. So it will rotate the molten salt, the hot molten salt out and create steam, and then refill a molten salt tank with the cold molten salt after the heat has been taken out of it. And then from there, it gets moved back over to take the heat back from the liquid sodium. So the tanks itself, they're used through the entire system, and it's primarily just all for heat exchange. So about 5.5 hours is the answer you're looking for.
I've heard too, like a liquid sodium.
Yes, sir. Yes. This technology has been developed and used in the 60s. There were issues. In certain cases, if you do interact liquid sodium with water, it can have a violent reaction. That's partially why we also have the separation of the energy island and the nuclear island. There is no water in the nuclear island at all, and we keep the liquid sodium in a very enclosed loop. It sits in the reactor itself. It's deeply enclosed, and that liquid sodium does not exit out of it, and it has no possibility to counteract with water.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about nuclear waste and said this had less nuclear waste, if I heard that right.
Yes, sir. The reactor is smaller, so it has about a third.
What kind of relationship of less would that be?
About a third
A
less.
third, okay. Okay, any other questions, committee? Okay, Andrew, it's been an honor that you've came. Thank you for taking the time and the effort to come here. Welcome to Kansas,
Thank you all very much.
and excited to get to possibly work with you in the future. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a couple minutes. We got a gentleman here from Wolf Creek. Would you want to come up and say hi? And got any questions about Wolf Creek, this is your guy, and here he is today. So you might give your name and title and push the button. Welcome.
Is this on? Everybody hear me? My name's Jamie McCoy. I'm the site vice president at Wolf Creek. So I work for Cleve Reasoner, who's the chief nuclear officer, and he's been here before as well as I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have related to the TerraPower technology, as much as I can answer, or Wolf Creek. So any questions, go right ahead.
Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for being here. I grew up in Burlington, by the way. I know that you're licensed out to 2045. Is that the drop dead date, or is there still, with proper maintenance and everything, can it go farther, longer, I guess?
It can definitely go further and longer. We, like many nuclear units, are already in application for a subsequent license renewal. So our current license ends at 2045, but by around the 2030 timeframe, we're going to apply for a next license renewal, which will be another 20 years, taking us to 2065.
Well, and I might note that during Winter Storm Uri, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys ran at 105% capacity, nameplate capacity.
Just 100%.
Just 100%.
Yeah.
Well,
NRC
you were-
tends to get on us if we're a little bit.
Oh, gone. You weren't hitting the gas any. No, impressive. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
How many employees do you have there?
We have right around 750 employees full-time at Wolf Creek. That may shrink or swell during our refueling periods. Normally, that'll be closer to an additional 1,000 people on our site during refueling outages.
Okay. Senator Peterson.
What percentage are you running at right now?
What percentage? We're at 100% power today. And we just had our refueling outage last fall and have been running at 100% ever since that refueling outage. So that's what we want to do and enjoy doing. So,
Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for also being here. I'm hoping my recollection is correct that the Wolf Creek site has the ability for a second tower or?
yep, yes. So thanks for asking that question. We originally, as Wolf Creek was being thought of, they were looking at 2 units, so dual unit site. The choices were made back in the 70s, obviously, to only pursue one. But we obviously have the land area and, the permitting is there. I mean, just like a permitting for our nuclear power plant, the permitting for TerraPower would be very similar. Since you already have a nuclear unit there, it's almost, I won't say it's a guarantee, but it's almost a guarantee that you'd be able to maneuver through that permitting process and be successful.
So then the follow-up would be, there is enough land if a project like TerraPower came to put that at the Wolf Creek site.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we have enough land area and we have a switch yard that we believe would be sufficient to provide that power output as well. And obviously we have the Coffee County Lake as well. That's a water source. So it's a pretty well packaged area for future development.
You also have a lot of security.
We do.
And then I'm thinking, when you talk about the time that it takes, when you're down, it would be very helpful to have an alternative power source right there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Senator Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What about your nuclear waste? Is it stored on site, or have you not accumulated any yet? And that's the plan? Thank you.
All of the nuclear waste that we've ever used at Wolf Creek is stored on site, either in our spent fuel pool or in our concrete structure that we store our dry fuel waste in. So that's where all of our waste is, because the federal government has yet to take any of the nuclear power plants, federal waste, or waste from any nuclear power plant as of yet.
Senator Thompson.
Another one. How much does like one batch of that fuel take up? And once you've pulled it out and stored it, how big is that?
Well, Let me see if I can try and get this. So in the terms of dry fuel storage, we usually change out every refueling outage. We change about 80 fuel assemblies out of our core of 193 fuel assemblies. So when you think about that, you're not quite a half, you're a little over a third is what you're changing out every time you refuel every 18 months.
How much space does that take up, though? That's what I'm curious over time.
Space-wise, it's probably 8 foot by 8 foot by 14 feet.
It's not huge.
No, it's not big. I mean, in fact, one of the common things talked about in nuclear industry is if you took all of the nuclear waste from all of the nuclear reactors in the United States, it kind of adds up to the Chiefs football field, stacked about 14 feet high. So when you think about waste streams from coal or other type industries, you start to see it's very concentrated.
What, if I may, just one quick, how much the land footprint do you have, I mean, minus the lake? And I guess the lake, you get the water from John Redmond?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, but just how much land area do you have, just land only?
That'd be a tough one to calculate out, but we're easily over 1,000 acres just at the station. Just if you count the lake alone, all the way around the lake, I think we're close to 8,000 acres.
Oh, goodness, square acre.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
So
Thank you.
it's pretty large.
So when you look at Wolf Creek, other nuclear plants in the U.S., don't they have some other ones that would be similar to Wolf Creek?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank
Kind of
you.
where do we fit? How many of them is there? And
Well, there's several SNUPS designs plant. That was the design that Wolf Creek is. At the very kind of back end of building of nuclear plants in the 1970s, they finally decided to come up with a standard nuclear design. That's what the SNUPS units were referred as. So Callaway, which is owned by Ameren in Missouri, is a SNUPS unit. Wolf Creek is a SNUPS unit. And then there's a SNUPS unit in the United Kingdom as well. So those were the three designed, and they're very, very similar plants. Now, obviously, we've been operating them for 40 plus years, so there's been some changes as we changed this direction, Callaway went that way, so on. But the units are very much the same, to the point where I've been to the Callaway unit and I can walk in and instantly recognize, I know that system, that system, that system. So.
okay. Any other questions? I find it interesting that you said United Kingdom and that that's something there. So that's kind of an interesting thing too. So,
Might have some standardized nuclear plants over there as well.
yeah. Okay. No other questions? Thank you very much for being here today.
Pleasure.
So, well, committee, that's it for today. I know we got a lot of business down the floor. Again, Andrew, thank you for being here. And at this time, meeting adjourned.